only magnified many times. If an individual has a problem with his neighbor, he may yell at the neighbor or, at worst, punch him in the nose. When governments become angry, they destroy entire cities. So we must be careful the power that we give to the government in terms of watching us and giving access to our private lives. Because when we lose that privacy, we lose our humanity. Now the question is, how do we do this protection without destroying our ability to access information? I believe it is because I believe that since we have two aspects to our lives, the public aspect and the private aspect, that the internet must also reflect these two aspects. Now, the internet does not at this time. It is a free-form, flowing, uncontrollable morass of information, and it's wonderful and usable. But I've created a product called Decentral, using my new company, Future Tense, that takes another aspect of the internet that should have been there and creates private networks that are free-flowing and movable to provide the secure aspects of our lives, the private aspects. And I will talk more about this a little later. A number of you have submitted questions that you would like answers to, and I would like to address those now. The first one is, what should the public do to protect themselves in light of the revelations of the NSA and its PRISM program? The problem with government surveillance is that they have the power of law behind them in many cases, or the power of executive order. Before we can protect ourselves completely, we must change those aspects of government. And there are many ways that we do this. We vote people in or out. We sign petitions. We press our representatives to change laws or enact laws that do protect us. And there is a time lag between the awareness of a problem and its solution in most cases when dealing with the government. These solutions must come quickly, however, before things get out of control. When the government can read our private communications to our wives and loved ones, to our children, when we give advice from man to man or from father to son, these have to be private. And if governments reach the point where everything that we say or do is watched, then we have reached the Orwellian state of 1984, and not a pleasant place. So the first is, we must change laws, and we must change government attitudes toward the collection of information on its citizens. The second thing we have to do is do everything within our power to protect ourselves. Do not ever leave the laptop lid open on your computer when you're at home if you're not using it. Because while it's up, the camera can be turned on and everything happening in the room can be seen. The same thing with your cell phones. When you lay them down, put them face down, not face up. If they're face up, then everything in the room can again likely be seen. Turn them off so that the microphone cannot be turned on. Use software judiciously. If you have an application on your smartphone, read the fine print. We have to start doing that. And we also have to lobby our governments to enact laws that application makers must adhere to. For example, using the microphone, using the camera, access to your private information like your contact list, and there are many, by the way, that you give the right to access your private information. Anything that you have on your computer, they have the right to look at if you agree to their terms and conditions. Things of this nature must be made clear to consumers, else we will have major problems in the future. And then software. Of course, we must use software. And above all, a good encryption technique. Encryption technology is absolutely necessary for our privacy and security as we go forward into the future. Our next question is, should the balkanization of the internet actually take place? Unfortunately, there's little that we can do to prevent it. The balkanization has begun, first with China, and other nations are soon coming, and we have little control over other governments. This is the cause of war, our interference in the affairs of our neighbors. However, we need to have free access to certain information that provides basic human rights. And the first of that is going to be privacy in all cases. Now, balkanization, in the end, if we are not aware of its consequences, could be devastating to the free flow of information and therefore the progress of all society on Earth. We must have this free flow. So governments must be aware, number one, of their ability to restrain or contain the information flow across its borders, and number two, its obligations to its citizen to inform the citizenry of events that are useful to the citizenry. So this is a tricky question. How do we do it? Balkanization is coming. We cannot stop that. Everybody has their own political agenda, their own needs or wants or desires for its citizenry. And the internet, being a major element of all functions of government and society these days, is going to become part of this personal interest of governments. So we have to be aware as citizens of what the balkanization could mean and make sure that our government managers and decision makers are also aware of these things. The next question is,